Okay.
Okay, so it's we're gonna be delving a little further into Maccabees. Now, the thing you have to remember about Maccabees is that, especially First Maccabees, I believe, is we're talking about the fulfillment of Daniel chapter 7.
No, Daniel 8.
Oh, sorry, you're right, Daniel. Thank you for the correction. Daniel 8.
Well, I only know that one so well because I actually did a post on it. So
Right. So, it's dealing in the fulfillment of the prophecy in Daniel 8, which the New Testament actually records Yeshua in presence at the feast of Hanukkah, the feast of dedication, the feast of lights, in commemoration of this day. So Yeshua honored this day. So Yeshua honored the feast of lights and the feast of dedication. It's good to know the information leading up into that. Also good to know here is that this is the information around which the split between the sect of the mainstream Pharisaical sect split off from the where you have the Essenes splitting off from the mainstream Pharisaical sect.
All right. Let's go brush your
So
teeth.
it's around this time period.
sure. One thing I want to interject real quick. Hanukkah wasn't started then, and if you go look at the verse, even in Maccabees, if you read it carefully, it shows that it was going on before, but they used it for the same purpose, and this is the one that most people point to. So, anyways.
Right. It's about it's about dedication and the light and the menorah being brought into the temple.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead. We finished the last time we were talking about Maccabees. We finished chapter 1. So we're going to, without any further ado, we're going to go into chapter 2 of First Maccabees. What? This is an apocryphal book. Guess what, guys? The apocryphal books are not necessary. To put the word apocrypha in front of it does not mean that it is necessarily invalid. What it does mean is that it was taken out of the canon at the time of during the Protestant Reformation.
Sure. Now, I
So-
will say Yahweh through Joseph Smith did mention how there's a lot of truth here, but also some errors.
Yeah, and that's and you know and so the apocrypha is not on the same level of scripture, but there's much to be gained from a study of the apocrypha. There's much to be gained there's both in testing your discernment, seeing how well you know the scriptures, and in and also in terms of culture, history, and what have you of the Jews between the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, etc., up to the time of Christ.
Right. Now, I do believe First Maccabees is one of the good books that Yeshua mentioned in the DNC through Joseph Smith that should be studied. I even quote it in my recent post for historical purposes and showing a pattern. So it does have its place, and it's good to know it's there.
Okay. So we're gonna start here in verse 1 of chapter 2 of First Maccabees, and Zach, if you could read that for us.
In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joarib.
Yorib.
What?
There was no J, there is no J in Hebrew,
Right.
so it's Yorib.
Yori from
Mhm.
Jerusalem. Yes. Yeah. And dwelt in Modin.
So, so here we are introducing, the father, the father of, the father of the son, this, Mattathias, he's the father of, who is the father of Judas Maccabeus, and he is a priest, um, of the sons of Yorib. He's not of the line of Zadok, but he's of the son, which is going to be one of the dividing lines between the Essenes and, um, the Pharisees and Sadducees. Because the Maccabees are basically the foundation of the Sadducees. In verse 2, Stephen?
Yeah. And he had 5 sons, Johann called Caddis, Simon called Thasi,
Hasi.
Judas, who was called Maccabeus, uh, Eleazar called Avarian, and Johann, whose surname was Apophius.
Aphis.
Apis.
Aphis.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the Hebrew form of Jonathan is, the Hebrew form of Jonathan and John is Yochanan. So, or Yohanan. And that is, and so that's, but Judas, it's interesting he's named Judas, this priest, Judas Maccabeus, who becomes the leader of, the tribe of Judah, who basically becomes a leader in the tribe of Judah, even though he is a priest. And therefore a Levite. This is actually one of the, that's actually one of the core sources of, disagreement between the Essenes and the Sadducees. Is over how much authority the, religion should play in the state. And whether the priests should be taking state offices.
Sure.
He said, he being Mattathias, woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Yes, he's feeling sorry for himself. Her temple has become as a man without glory. Okay, so this is once again, this is another, this is another reference to, this is another reference to the desecration of the temple.
Which had happened at this point because I can get the verse. Give me a second. Because in First Maccabees, it's mentioned how it got defiled.
Yeah, in chapter 1, it talks about how, about the temple.
Chapter 1. So it's First Maccabees 154 tells us it was desecrated. So
yes, and so her temple has become as a man without glory. It's an interesting way to look at this is to look to the law and see what the commandment of the Lord was with, leprous houses. Because the desecration of the temple here is a type and shadow of the destruction of the temple that would happen in 70. And at 70, and the
70
when
AD. And I-
70 AD, yeah, sorry, you're right. And when Yeshua, just before his crucifixion, states, let me pull that up real quick.
You want to stop sharing, Zach, so he can share.
Let's see. I need to go here. Here. Scriptures, Testament, Matthew. Yeah. 23. Okay, so there we go. Let me. Share my screen here. Okay, so when Yeshua is making this declaration in Matthew 23, just before he enters into the just as he's entering into the Olivet Discourse and giving his apostles basically the look up and the run up to the scattering of Israel and the end of the wicked.
So if
Which
you
are two
want,
different
I have
things.
this in chiasm if you want to look at it chiasm, if you
I
if you don't, that's fine.
will that do any better a job of pointing out what I'm wanting to
I
get
don't
to?
know.
Which is I'm pointing to the law, and I'm pointing to the fact that Yeshua is actually proclaiming. Let's just read it as it is here.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to look at this. The chiasms are wonderful and beautiful, but they don't always. But there are things that you can draw out of things when they're not in chiasm as well.
I agree. I agree.
And so we're going to start here at verse 34. Zach, if you could read that for me.
Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city.
Okay, and verse 35, Stephen.
That upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias the son of Barnechus.
Barakiah.
Barachiah.
Barachias.
Barachias, whom
Yep.
you slay between the temple and the altar.
This is Zacharias, the father of John. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. Verse 37, Zach.
Real quick,
Matt.
if you allow me to share, there's a big section of JST here, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll stop that. And we'll see the JST in it. And the
So the bold is JST, right? So
okay, and I'll go ahead and read. I'll go ahead and read that. You bear testimony against your fathers when ye yourselves are partakers of the same wickedness. Behold, your fathers did it through ignorance, but ye do not. Wherefore their sins shall be upon your heads. Then Yeshua began to weep over Jerusalem, saying, and now, Matt, verse 37.
O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, ye who will kill the prophets and will atone.
Will stone.
Will stone.
Sorry, I can't see from that far, apparently. Give me a moment. Ow! I hurt myself. Okay. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, ye will kill the prophets and will stone them who are sent unto you. How often would I have gathered your children together, even as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, and ye would not.
Okay, now the interesting thing here is that if we go back to if we go back to the if we go back to the original, and even this here, Yeshua is like a priest in the midst of his house, in the midst of the leprous house here, and he's condemning it.
Yes, I can see how that's going on.
And it's seven, and sure, it takes a little bit of time for it to happen, but it's 70. All the rocks, all the wood, all that made that house was taken out of the land and taken to an unclean place.
I can see that.
So this is this man, this priest, if we go back to, if you could stop sharing, so that I can get us back, or so that Zach can get us back into Maccabees here. So this priest is right to be bemoaning because he's seen the decay of his people. He's seen the things that are happening to them. He's seen that the temple has become as a man without glory. The Shekinah glory has left the temple. So, let's see. Zach, verse 9.
Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy.
Verse so, and of course this was happening at this time. It was also a shadow, but it was but not as completely as it would happen in 70. So it's a shadow of what is to come.
Yeah, I could definitely see that with verse 9, because all three parts there, the vessels were taken away. The Romans took them after the Jews started the destruction of the temple. The infants there were being worse than just being slain in the streets. And then young men were getting, killed with the sword. So this is definitely a shadow.
Yep. There you see, and so do you see here the Hebrew tendency to use historical events as prophecy.
Yeah, they will tie prophecy to historical events. Yes. And along those lines, one thing I put in the Matthew 24 chiasm is how sometimes it's referring back to Daniel 8, and sometimes it's referring to Daniel 9, the last part of the destruction temple there. So there's parallels between the two, but they are separate events.
So, Stephen, can you go ahead and read 10 through 12?
Yes. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Meaning,
What nation has Israel not been scattered into? What nation did Judah not get scattered into?
sure. Okay, I can see that. And all her ornaments are taken thereof, or taken away. I mean, stuff from the temple. I believe that's what it's referring to, right?
Yep.
A free woman, she has become a bond slave, meaning now Israel's working for these other nations. And behold, our
but this also goes back to a principle in the law, the bond servitude, which is which is which the law, it's the bond servitude as opposed to body snatching or human
or slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so they've had to basically they've had to sell themselves to satisfy their debts.
Sure. And an interesting little tidbit to go along with what Ben is saying, in the law, when you sell yourself into bond servanthood, sorry, that's probably not the best way to say it, but anyways, at the end of that stint, your master is to give you riches so that way you don't get into that again. Now, the history that goes along with some of this stuff shows that these masters gave the Jews riches at the end of it, which would go along with the law, right?
Right. So yeah, that's that, and thank you for pointing that out. Okay, and verse 12 too.
Oh yeah. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it.
And
So,
while yeah.
so the Gentiles and the Greeks in this case,
While Antiochus Epiphanes profaned the sanctuary, he did not destroy it. That would come later.
sure. But the reason he was able to do it is because of their sins beforehand.
Yes.
Which took away, or which made it such Yahweh did not protect them as he would have otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's not only the Greeks' fault, it is partly the Jews' fault also. But
right.
The Gentiles were giving a punishment to the Jews from God because of the Jews' sins. So,
Yep. Well, and these people actually, when they put on their sackcloth and mourn, that actually indicates a knowledge of their culpability in it.
yes, I would agree with
We're
that.
about to read here.
Yeah.
To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. And in the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. So here we have what is our with the sanctuary profaned, priests are like, what is our purpose? What are we to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the king of the Gentiles has an answer for you there, buddy. Because you guys have sinned and fallen, because you guys have sinned and left off honoring the Lord your God, now the king of the Gentiles, the king's officers of the Gentiles are going to make you honor their king
Mm-hmm.
and their gods.
Yeah. So they're going to do bad sacrifices.
Right. So, Zach, 15 through 18, 16 through 18.
So along that real quick, I do want to say, the mark of the beast is false worship at the wrong or at the wrong time, which is what's going on right here, right?
And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler, and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, just as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and mighty rewards.
So here we have a test. We have a test to Mattathias and his sons. Are they going to sell? Are they going to sell? Are they going to sell their God for silver, gold, and the friendship of a king?
The king of the world.
Yep, a king of the world. Valid. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then also that kind of also goes along with the mark of the beast, also, right?
Yes. This is a type and shadow of the mark of the beast, because the mark of the beast is false worship.
And it deals with money,
And it's false worship and false times.
right? And it, yeah. Anyways,
And there is an aspect of buying and selling to it that is mentioned in the book of Revelation. Now, I do not, now I do not believe that the buying and the selling is, that the buying and the selling is the big descriptor of the mark of the beast, but it is a means whereby they can enforce it.
sure. Well, the more part that I'm getting at is Yeshua said, you cannot serve Elohim and money. And so this gets into multiple aspects. One is priestcraft, and another is false worship. And I will just say something: the golden ticket. Sorry, as in from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I got me a golden ticket.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is what anyways, it's part of it. It's
So,
not the only part. So, but
right. So 19 through 21, Stephen.
yes. And then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's domain obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments. So he's just basically saying everyone in the world is obeying the king of the world instead of their own gods. Yet I and my sons and my brethren will walk in the covenant of our fathers, which that reminds me of Joshua's statement, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Finish 21.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Elohim forbid that we should forsake the Torah and the ordinances.
And there you have it. This is Mattathias's Joshua moment. Though all the world worships as your king commands, yet will I and my sons walk in the covenant of our fathers. Which covenant is the covenant of life, by the way. While a new covenant does not mean a new law.
No.
The covenant is built on more sure promises, and the penalties of having broken the previous covenants are not enforced. So
on that, more on that point, I'll put in the notes. You can go look at the Law of Moses page.
Yeah.
It has a bit on that. So,
but given that Yeshua had not come yet, this is such a wonderful, faith-filled statement in the face of the generals and their soldiers, knowing that his house is going to be, and knowing that it could very well destroy his house. Such a faith-filled statement.
No, I haven't. I just left.
and in here, just on this point, he says Torah and the ordinances. He's conflating those as two different things.
So here you have it. They're two different things. Torah and the ordinances are two different things, as shown in the Apocrypha.
Right. It didn't say including, it says and. And I know that maybe be nitty gritty, but there is an important nitty gritty, but anyway.
Right. So now I'll go ahead and Zach, if you could make sure the 24 is completely visible, and I'll go forward. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either on the right hand or the left. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear. He showed his anger according to judgment, therefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
Which is actually, it states here, although he was angry, it was still according to the statutes, judgments, and commandments, which are key words for Torah.
So Mattathias is actually acting in the capacity that you see the judges act in the Judges, Book of Judges. It's a judge is at the first.
Yeah, well, he did it according to Torah, and the key word there, according to judgment, which is one of the key words that points to Torah. So,
Right, because Torah is the law of statutes and judgments. Statutes and commandments are the same.
yes.
So it's the law of statutes and judgments. So if it's anger, according to, if he's showing his anger according to judgment, this is righteous anger.
Yes, and God has righteous anger. I know people don't like to acknowledge that, but we are to be slow to anger, not never angry. So,
And how long have Mattathias watched these people just blow with the wind?
a while. I don't know exactly how long, but a while.
So this isn't just a sudden thing. This is the thing you guys have to people have to understand when they're reading these massively dramatic statements, and they are dramatic, and they are real. But when they're reading these massively dramatic statements, they have to realize that this comes after First Maccabees chapter 1 covers a long period of time. And all this time we have Mattathias standing in the priestly office doing his bit and watching all these people bend to every pagan custom. And now Torah will allow him to do it no more.
Yeah. And I would imagine the part slew him upon the altar is just what happened because of the location where this what's the word I want to use? Apostate priest was at, not because he was trying to do it there. That's just where he was.
So
it goes along to the fact that that priest was trying to do something that was commanded not to, as to offer
right.
pagan stuff upon the altar. I think it's more the location showing that his judgment was right than anything else.
Right. So all right. I think so. Yeah, and so that is. I think we've hashed that out pretty well. Zach, do you want to read 25 through 27?
Yep. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled him to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of Elohim, like as
What he
Phineas. Is that how you spell it? Phineas? Or
Yeah, it's
pronounce it?
this is the same person who in Numbers is called Phineas.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
through the javelin, right?
Yep,
Yes,
And
into
impaled.
the
and impaled both Zambri and the uh Amorite that he was screwing in the tent.
yes.
Yes, yeah, yes. Okay, I think
What?
a bit, or Matt wanted
No,
to.
I
Well, so one second, Zach, 1 second.
Sure.
This is important to note. This is important to note. What Zach just read. What Zach just read was where he did it and why he did it. He actually did kill that dude and the commissioner at the false altar. And then he destroyed that altar after.
But he did it for the Torah of Elohim.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He did it for the Torah of Elohim, yes, but he did it upon he killed the false people at their worship site, thus showing that those who are not focused in Torah have no power.
And they have
Their God has no power to protect them.
Correct.
That actually is the significance of these verses that Zach is reading.
Right. And a future one that most, if not all, believers are looking forward to is Zion. And Zion will receive protection because they are keeping God's law.
Yes.
because they
Or
are
in
keeping
other words, Torah. But
God's Torah. Okay, verse 27.
I didn't finish 26.
Oh, sorry.
Like as Phineas did unto Zambri, the son of Salam, and Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
And so this is what is generally referred to as in the histories is when they called men to their tents. When Israel is called to their tents. And so and so he's crying, whoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant. He's actually making a distinction between blood Israel and Israel.
as in those who are of the lineage versus those who have really had Yahweh's ways, Torah, written upon their hearts.
Exactly.
And so he's making that distinction right there.
So it's
Okay.
interesting, just on that, if we could sidetrack a little
Yep.
bit.
Yeah, sure.
So King Benjamin, in the Book of Mormon, in Mosiah 2-5, I don't remember what verse it is, but I do have a note real quick that I'll just read real quick. And I say unto you, I would that you should remember to retain the name, aka character, aka law, aka Torah, always in your hearts. Character is name is a Hebrew idiom and English dictionary of name for character. You get the character by keeping his law. And the scriptures make it clear we are to write his law in our hearts.
And that and that is and the thing that makes the new covenant new isn't the fact that it's new or that its terms are new. It's that it is renewed and unbroken. And we have the chance, and in every iteration where the covenant has been given, we have been commanded to write that covenant upon our hearts. We've been commanded to write that law upon our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they say that the Spirit will write the law upon your heart, that can only happen if you're in touch with the mind and will of God, i.e. reading your scriptures and your law daily.
Right. And I think part of it, they don't know what the Spirit is.
Right.
The Spirit is Torah. So as you study Torah and seek to keep Torah, it will start to be written upon your heart. That is why the Spirit will write it upon your heart, because the Spirit is Torah. Sorry.
So when yes, that which we do, we grow to love. This is called writing it on your heart. So that which we do, we grow to love. So how is the law written upon our hearts? Not with a pencil, not with some,
I hope not.
not with some magical, not with some ethereal, not with some kind of ethereal, what's that thing that you use on a computer to write on the screen? Not with some ethereal stylus.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean as humans write on? Okay, yes.
Yeah, as humans write on a computer, not like humans write on a computer screen. The law is written on our hearts as we do it.
Mhm.
And
And as we do it, we will come to understand it.
right. And also, and also when we fight doing it, what we're showing is that we haven't been born again.
So I'll push back a little bit on that, because there is justification and then sanctification.
Right.
And a lot of people after justification start believing lies.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I do believe they can be born again. They might not have been, or maybe they were, but if they were, they're going back into their old ways. So
Okay. Yeah.
I will push back a little bit on that.
Well, and that's probably wisdom. So because after all, the salvation pattern is first saved in the blood of the Lamb, then baptism, then the Holy Ghost or the law.
Yeah, because I do believe justification is part of being born again. The problem is they just didn't continue with it. So, anyways.
Right. So okay, let's see.
Right here.
Who is it for 28?
I read it here.
Okay, so Stephen, 28 through 30.
Sure. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then this goes along with what Yeshua even stated for 70 AD. So this is another part of the type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't go back, leave stuff behind. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. So they saw that Matthias is starting to be a righteous leader, right? And they flocked unto him.
Mm-hmm.
Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. So they had to deal with the Greeks and the wicked Jews, or Israelites. I should say that, because Jews is overloaded. The wicked Israelites. They didn't like them because they were making their lives harder because they were standing up for righteousness. Right? It's just easier to go with the flow. And they were converted unto Yahweh, and they're like, no, I'm not just going to go with the flow. I'm going to stand up for what is right, even when it's hard.
Here's actually a type also of the end times Exodus and call out.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mattathias goes out first, prepares a place for them where they can gather.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people who seek justice and judgment go down to go onto it.
That sounds like Mighty Strong One and Aaron and her, and how and the Lehites they will build a city, and then people will come unto it because of the righteous judgments that will be there and the protection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David that certain men who had broken his commandment were gone down into the secret places of the wilderness, they pursued after them with a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, Let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. So they surround them in their camp on the Sabbath day with a great number of men. And Zion was surrounded to the neck, according to Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
And they said unto them, Let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. Sennacherib offered the same deal to the people of Israel, or to the people of Judah. Forsake your king, come over to us, and you'll be able to live.
And in I think it's once or twice in the Book of Mormon, along similar circumstances, the evil leader did the same type of a letter stating similar things to the righteous.
Yep. So there's that.
So this is a pattern. And
Yeah.
at least one occasion in the Book of Mormon, the one in 3rd Nephi, it's very obvious that one is a pattern for the coming Zion. The other ones with King or Captain Moroni.
Well, and I think that this really points back to the mark again, because they're telling them to come out and make this pax with the Greeks on the Sabbath day, to do business on the Sabbath.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And
Is that
34.
34 through 36?
But they said, We will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid.
So they chose righteousness, right?
They chose to maintain the Sabbath. And what happens? Does God magically protect them? 37 through 39, Stephen.
Sure. But said, Let us die all in our innocence. Heaven and earth will testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. So this that kind of goes with Daniel's 3 brothers that I can never say their name, right? Just before they went into the fire, they said, whether we die or not, we're going to be with Elohim, which is we're going to die in our innocence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they were protected, but that goes back to other types further, but that's another discussion. But anyways, so they rose. Go ahead.
Yeah, and here they are not.
No. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them, and with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Now when Matthias and his friends understood thereof, they mourned for them right sore. It's a weird phrase at the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, that means that they mourned. That means that they mourned exceedingly. They were
Okay.
very, very sorrowful.
Okay.
And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. And so now seeing that the Greeks do intend to kill them if they choose to continue in the law, now they fight.
Mhm.
Because you know, I think sometimes God wants to see how much effort we're willing to put in to defend our right to worship him as we please,
Yeah.
or as he pleases.
Yeah. It's fine to defend ourselves. And this is what they're doing. They're defending themselves. In fact, actually, Torah states that we need to defend ourselves and our neighbors.
Mhm.
Specifically our family, but also our neighbors, or I should say, especially our family.
Well, and this also points to false tradition that had already taken root in their hearts, that this idea that you're not to do anything on the Sabbath day.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion on that. For a quick example, the Battle of Jericho, they were doing war on a Sabbath day. So and on top of that, even the high holidays, unleavened bread. But anyways, that's another subject. So there's a lot of false traditions that people try to read into things.
So this actually also comes back to into another fine point when you're studying your scriptures, not just reading them to check off a box and say, hey, I read my 3 chapters today. When you're studying your scriptures, remember that there are things which are descriptive and there are things which are prescriptive. And don't mistake the one for the other.
Yes, and people who don't know Torah are more prone to get those mixed up. But, yeah.
Yeah, and so this is why it's actually a good idea to actually study into the first 5 books of Moses, because then you'll be able to realize what in the Bible is actually prescriptive as opposed to descriptive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now, and of course, when they decide that they're ready to fight, when they decide that they're ready to fight to defend themselves, now come the mighty men.
Okay.
That's where we are there. Zach, 43 through 45.
Also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they
No,
joined.
I do want to interrupt real quick. That sounds like Zion, right?
Right. And so the stay is the stay is a container wherein nourishment is kept. And so those who fled for persecution joined themselves onto them and were of a nourishing nature unto the men of war.
Ah, okay. So 44, Zach.
So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars.
So, so now they're going around, they're cleansing the land of all these Greek altars. They're smiting wicked and sinful men.
And just FYI, this to go around taking down false altars in your land is a Torah commandment.
Yes.
And I will say, in your land, not other people's.
Yeah, so this whole idea of going into another country and enforcing your ideology upon it, this is not of God.
Yeah,
And America,
it's in your own land.
and America has not waged a war that is of God in a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
46.
Stephen, 46 through 48.
Okay. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. So this was during a period that punishment was still into play. So basically what you get here is they're seeing people who aren't keeping the commandments and helping them keeping it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that ended at the cross, as we can see in the DNC, Book of Mormon, and also JST Genesis 17. But anyways, they pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So God helped them, prospered them, because they were striving to keep the commandments, right?
Mhm.
48. So they received the Torah out of the land, or
Recovered.
they recovered the Torah out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hands of the kings. Neither suffered they this sinner to triumph.
So because they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, I think this is more a reference that they recovered the rulership of their land out of the hand of the Gentiles, or the leadership of their land out of the hand of the Gentiles, and so much as Torah, because Torah doesn't come out of the hand of the Gentiles.
Sure. Or it could be the manuscripts, possibly.
Oh, that it could be that too.
And this is where I don't know enough of history of Maccabees to say one way or the other myself, but I could see how it could be either. I will say I'm more inclined to the manuscripts, but it could also be what Ben's bringing out also. But this is where we need more context.
Manuscripts is another very 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 likely thing.
Sure. And this is we need more context. We can't just say from that one verse.
Yeah.
I can't.
But what we do know is that Torah doesn't come out of the hand of the Gentiles, it comes out of the mind and will of Yahweh.
We're right. Which was written down though on manuscripts that they could have
gotten out of the hand.
right. And when they left, they probably didn't grab it. They were in too much of a hurry, right?
Mhm.
And now that they are able to, now they go and get it back. But that's just a theory. I don't know enough history or context right here to say one way or the other.
Right. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, in the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. This sounds pretty much like what Yahweh said to Joshua as he was about to lead Israel into the land.
Strive to keep Torah, right?
Yep.
Just as your fathers did.
Yeah.
and an everlasting character. So what means Torah is forever. But anyways.
Yep. And Zach, 52 through 54.
Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood.
You know, there's so much great teaching here as he's teaching his sons. And I think of all three of these blessings that for all of the blessings that he's talking about here, the one that is most permanent, the two that are most permanent are those for found faithful in temptation, imputed unto him for righteousness. Though if you look at it symbolically, Joseph's is permanent too, because he's made a king because he kept the commandments.
Mhm.
And Abraham was imputed to him for righteousness, and Phineas received an everlasting priesthood.
Mhm.
That is those are not small things. Those are not things to trifle with.
No. So, just FYI, that's Melchizedek priesthood there.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's not Aaronic, that's Melchizedek, but anyways.
Even if Phineas for the rest of his life faithfully operated under the Aaronic priesthood.
Sure. You can be an Aaronic priest and have the Melchizedek priesthood.
Yeah.
And you're still doing his Aaronic priesthood duty.
In fact,
but
that
he
everlasting
did get-
priesthood was given to him by the voice of the Lord, through the voice of the Lord.
Yes. But I the main thing I'm trying to bring out, that everlasting priesthood is Melchizedek priesthood.
Yep. Now here's something really interesting. This Jesus they're talking about isn't Jesus of Nazareth.
No, it's not. This is the translation.
Joshua. It's Joshua.
It's Joshua. But
So okay, really quick. This is why we say when we're talking about Jesus, we say Yeshua,
yeah. So
because that is the Hebrew name.
yeah.
Yeshua
They
or
have
Joshua.
the same basic name.
Yeshua, Yahushua, Yehoshua, those are all the same person. That they and every single one of them means this: Yah saves.
Yeah.
And so that is
Yeah, that's just a little hint what Jesus or Yeshua's real name really was, right? So
right.
anyways.
So there you go. That's so
I'm sure that was a translation slip on someone's part there, though. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Who just read through 54?
Me.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Zach?
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn,
I
right?
did.
Yep.
So Joshua, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the inheritance of the land. So that's referring to when someone from each tribe went to the land to spy out to see what's there, right? And it was Joshua and Caleb that gave the faithful witness. All the other 10 gave an unfaithful one. David, for being mercifully possessed the throne of an
For being merciful, possessed the throne.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom.
So now you see why Isaiah refers to Yeshua in many of his prophecies as my servant David.
Mhm.
Right here shows us why. David for being merciful. And we give him a hard time because he didn't pass judgment on his sons or what have you. But I believe that it was his mercy that obtained the promise of the line of kings. And an everlasting kingdom. By the way, that throne of an everlasting kingdom, the Jews know. The Jews know that David was forgiven.
Mhm. It's just people with an axe to grind say he wasn't. He was. David was not perfect, but I'm not either. There's only been one man, Yeshua, the promised Messiah, that has been perfect. But David made some mistakes, but he sought forgiveness and he received it.
And for the promise of things to come was given the promise of an everlasting kingdom.
Yeah. You want me to keep?
Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. This would be Elias being being something. Elias is Elijah here because
It
Elijah
is here.
is here,
The translation issue,
right?
but no.
Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, by believing, were saved out of the flame.
So
Daniel,
those are the three brothers of Daniel, right?
that would be Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. As their Hebrew names are Ananias, Azarias, and Misael. Daniel, for his innocence, he was delivered from the mouth of lions. So here we are continuing to show that the blessings of all of these people are predicated by faith unto obedience, not just faith. Oh, I believe.
Well, yeah, so this is where a lot of people don't know what faith means, and I'll just put it simply. Faith is trust and diligence. Meaning you believe it and you do it.
Mm-hmm. You don't make excuses for why it's just not possible. And therefore, God delivered you from his fearsome law.
Yeah.
These men did it. Yes, salvation by works is a yoke that no one has ever been able to bear. However, works
Faith without works.
works wrought by faith in Yeshua are easy to bear.
Yeah.
They're not keeping the commandments for salvation purposes.
No,
No, we're keeping it for obedience purposes.
Right.
And
I will point out that the entire mixed multitude of Israel was saved before they ever it was saved on condition of obedience to one commandment, to bring themselves under the blood of the Lamb.
yes. Yeah. I don't remember what I was going to say, so
let's move on to 61 here. 61 through 60 are we at the bottom yet? Nope. Okay. 61 to 63, Zach.
And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be done in worms. To this day he shall be lifted up. Tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thought is come to nothing.
Okay. None shall be overcome who put their trust in Yahweh. Those sinful men who pass judgment upon us are not to be feared. For they're going to be worm food. I mean, all of our bodies are going to be worm food eventually, but they're
I'll push back a
the
little
sinful
bit
man.
because we're getting close to the millennium and people
Well,
will change in the twinkling of an eye. But
well,
in the past, yes.
right. When this was delivered, everybody was going to be worm food.
Sure. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. So but I think Job says it best. Though worms eat my flesh, yet I know that in my flesh I shall see God.
Yes.
Um, now the sinful man does not have that comfort. The sinful man will go to hell, where his torments never cease, and where the worms never cease, and his thirst quenches not.
Sure. And they dread seeing Yahweh because they all will see him, all will bow. But it'll be a judgment day that they know their judgment will be to go to hell. And so they don't want to see that.
Yep. They may be high and mighty now. People may look up to them and say that they're wonderful, godly men, even if they don't know anything. They may say they're wonderful, godly men, but tomorrow they won't be found. They'll be worm food, literally, for eternity. Brought to the dust, stoned, as it were. Okay, 64 through 66.
Yeah, I think it's my turn, right?
Yep.
Wherefore, ye, my sons, be valiant and show yourselves men in the behalf of the Torah, for by it shall you obtain glory. Oh, wait a minute. By Torah we shall obtain glory. Oh, yes, because we're sanctified by Torah, DNC 84. Anyways, okay. And behold, I know that your brother Simeon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be like a father unto you. So this is just someone who knows Torah. You should go to and learn from him, right? As for Judas Maccabeus, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people.
So here he's dividing the inheritance of leadership among his sons, giving strength for strength. Now, if you believe the records of the Qumran people, the Simon corrupted the council.
Oh, this Simon?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Through taking leadership position politically among the people, as well as in the temple.
Oh, okay.
And Judas Maccabeus, well, He was a strong warrior.
Sure.
And so that's so there's that. The thing is that no man, no matter how righteous they are, knows the thoughts and hearts of another man.
No.
As clearly, Mattathias did not know the thoughts and intents of the heart of Simon.
Sure. So maybe at the time this was stated, he was doing things the right way, but then maybe things got to his head and he started to be a politician.
Yep.
So,
So this is why the judging of the heart goes to God. The judging of a man's relationship to God goes to God. We judge by their actions. And here he's judging Simon by his actions up to this point.
sure. Yeah.
So this judgment and conferring of the leadership upon two of his sons is based on righteous judgment, what he has observed through their actions and through time.
Yeah.
So, and take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. Oh, wow. Yeah, you mean the commandments of the law that says that you're supposed to treat the sojourner exactly the same as you treat one of your brethren?
That couldn't be what's going on. No, because no, actually, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
So he blessed them and was gathered to his fathers. Now, what an elegant way of saying he died and kicked the bucket. But that's a great. But he was a great man who did everything in his power to set his sons up for greatness.
Mhm.
Taught them the law, taught them to fear the law, and to live the law. Now, at this point, the Jews had it widely held in their hearts that the heathen were not to get the law,
Which is a false tradition.
which is a false tradition, yes. Because, and you can read about that in the law itself, because by the law, was Israel supposed to be a witness to the nations.
Yes. And even at Mount Sinai, there was a mixed multitude there. It wasn't
Right.
just Israel, and they all accepted it, not just Israel. So,
And practically every commandment in the law states is for the sojourner and for the natural born.
yes, there are some laws that are just for Levitical priests, and so
Right.
definitely wouldn't go to the foreigners. But that's only to one tribe of Israel, also. So,
Right. This idea that the law means keeping 613 commandments uh, is ridiculous because, okay, let's grant you that there's 613 commandments. About 40% of those were for the priests.
yeah, but the 613 is just a false tradition.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, even granted that, you don't have to keep all 613.
Sure.
Even if there were 613 commandments.
Yeah, even if that was a true categorization or breakup.
You don't have to keep all 613.
Yeah, and there's some that are just for women too.
Right. If
I don't know, I don't have the hair for a woman. So.
if I tried to keep a commandment for a woman, it would be an abomination before the Lord. I promise you.
Yes, it is. In fact, just wearing clothes like a woman
is an abomination before the Lord.
Yeah, which
So-
we talked about in our DNC 126 expose. So
Right. So there we go. And I'll just finish it off here, finish this chapter off here. And he died in the 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modin, and all Israel made great lamentation for him, because he was a judge who freed Judah.
yeah.
The days of the judges didn't cease. Just because there were kings.
Well, and even when there were kings, part of their job was being a judge. So there's a lot of misunderstanding going on. So
Right. And so there's First Maccabees chapter 2.
I'm gonna pause.